Shana, thank you so much for being here today.
I am so excited. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. So I like to start every interview by asking guests, as a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
This is kind of a hard one for me because I don't really remember what I wanted to be. I
Ah.
think at one point I wanted to be a mom. I was mostly raised by my single mother. And so I think I aspired to be like her at one point. But I think later down the line, I really wanted to just be like someone who was like badass at marketing. I kind of realize now that I never saw who I wanted to be growing up. I didn't have anyone who was an expander for me to kind of show me what the options were out there. Entrepreneurship didn't really exist in the media. It wasn't like showcased in the same way it is now.
Well, and how do you think that all ties to what you do today?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So just to give you like a little bit of background, I
Yeah,
built my
sure.
career doing social media and marketing for fashion and wellness brands. So I think that's where that marketing piece kind of comes in. But I quit my job at the same time that I was going through a divorce in the same year. And that year just happened to be the year that the pandemic hit. Crazy. And so during that time, I decided to launch my own journal using the tools that really help me connect with myself. When the two things I identify with most, my career and my marriage, had totally shifted. It was a wild time. But I also currently work part-time at the Kendra Scott Women's Entrepreneurial Leadership Institute on our FoundHER program, where I get to support current and future entrepreneurs building their own businesses. And our motto for that is, if you can see her, you can be her. And that it resonates for me so much because I didn't see myself very clearly in any of the careers that kind of previously existed until a few years ago.
Oh, there's so much there that I want to dig into. So you mentioned that you came up with the idea for the journal, for the product, the company that you have now through that very difficult period. So we were going through a pandemic, which was difficult in and of itself, and you were going through a divorce and you left your job.
Yeah, it was wild.
And how did you know how to work through that? Were you working with someone? Were you reading books? How did it go from I'm going through this really tough time to creating this journal? What were the steps to get there?
Okay, so during that time, I was seeing two different therapists. I was seeing a couples therapist and my own therapist. I was listening to all the Esther Perel, just like trying to
Oh,
figure
she's
it
so
out.
good. She is so good.
I'm obsessed with her. And I was reading all the self-help books and I was just journaling a ton. I was just trying to do everything I could to kind of figure out what I wanted to do next. Like my identity had shifted so much, and being in the pandemic, so much got stripped away. And so I kind of had to figure out like, what kind of life do I want to build? I decided to join this women's group online with this community called Yellow Co.
Okay.
And it's all about women creating meaningful work. And when I joined it, I was like, hey, I have to be totally transparent. I'm in the midst of a divorce, just quit my job. I have no idea what I'm doing. But the one thing I do know is that it's my life motto to be the Me-est Me. And that means showing up as the most authentic version of me in every situation and giving you the space to show up that way too. And one of the girls in the group said, wow, Shana, I have really bad imposter syndrome. Someone like you could really help someone like me. Have you ever thought about doing some sort of programming around that? And at the time, I had never considered it, but I ended up revisiting my journals and revisiting the tools that really helped me. And I figured if they help me, they could probably help a lot of other people. So I started building out what is now the Me-est Me Journal.
And how did you, because I, as looking at your website and at your journal, there seems to be prompts for
Yeah.
reflection. How did you go about creating these prompts? Were they the ones that resonated the most with you? Were they the ones that caused the most change within you? How did you go about selecting?
Yeah, it really was the prompts like that kind of I stumbled upon during my journey, different like tips or tricks that my friends had offered me. Yeah, just things that really helped me and supported me during this time that I felt extremely lost. And so, yeah, I was just trying to look back and see what really did help me and figure out what would be best to help others as well.
Did you already feel like you had worked through what you needed to work through, or were you in the midst of working it out too and kind of testing and Were you at a point when you launched your journal where you said, I have this figured out, or were you still kind of trying to figure it out yourself? At what point did you decide that, or maybe creating this journal was what got you out of it? I don't know.
Yeah, I think that I was at a place that I of course was on my healing journey. It definitely takes some time to heal through a divorce. And even quitting my job and like leaving the career that I'd built essentially, I think that I was already on my healing journey, but I think that it definitely helped me through that healing process, being able to take what helped me and supported me and thinking about how many more people I could help.
Yeah. And even as I'm like looking at your website and I was looking through your journal, what comes across is this sense of you've done the work. It comes across very clearly like, oh, there, even just from the little bit that I could see from the journal, right? You're obviously not sharing all the prompts and everything, but I could see that there's a depth there.
Yeah, well, I have been someone who's been to therapy on and off throughout my life since middle school. So a lot of the language has been language that I've used for a large chunk of my life. And therapy to me is someone that I am screaming from the rooftops about. I think everyone should be in therapy. Having like a neutral third party is such a great support. And I think the Me-est Me Journal can go hand in hand with whatever therapy you are doing. So yeah, I mean, the work never ends, right? It's just a continuous journey, but I do feel like I am equipped to launch something like this because I have been in therapy and have been doing a lot of this work for most of my life.
And what have you learned as a consequence or as you've launched this project? So as you've launched this business, I'm sure there's been a lot of learning along the way about yourself that might be helpful for our audience.
Oh man, I feel like I've learned so much. So for me, when I was going through my divorce and when I had quit my job, I just knew that I had to shed this skin and I knew it was going to be part of something bigger, but I didn't know what. And all along that way, I was just trusting my inner knowing. I really learned to cultivate self-trust within myself and taking actions that would support that self-trust. And I kind of learned that it's like, in order to trust your inner knowing, there's kind of three things that go along with it. First is getting quiet. It's connecting with yourself. It's doing things like journaling or meditating or taking walks, doing the things that really help you connect with yourself so you can get quiet and you can listen. And then from there, it's building that self-trust. So taking those aligned actions and taking those steps to really lean into trusting your intuition. And then from there, it's like taking the step that requires the bravery to take action. So it could be really hard when you realize that you're unhappy in your life or unhappy in your relationship, or you want something to change. And it's really scary. There's this time period where you kind of have to choose between sitting in the like uncomfortable, but like comfortable situation. Like things aren't perfect, things aren't great, but like you're comfortable here, so you'll be here. Or sitting through that short-term discomfort to take the leap and literally building the life of your dreams. So I think I've really relied on my intuition, my gut, my inner knowing to guide me, and it has not let me down yet.
Oh, wow. I love that you just shared that. I'm actually reading The Way of Integrity by Martha Beck, and she's talking about, she calls it the inner teacher and listening to that inner teacher. And she even has some exercises probably similar to what you have, and to try to figure out what that inner teacher is trying to tell us and how when we're aligned with that, so much more is possible than we could ever dream of. I love that you shared that. And I'd love to dig in a little more because I don't know that this is a topic that I hear in just regular conversation. I mean, I love all the self-help, personal development, all the things. So I'm like reading and doing, but I don't know that that's something that most people talk about, this like inner knowing, this inner teacher kind of aligning with that voice. Do you mind telling us more about that, what you've learned from your experience?
Yeah, it's something that has come up for me so much, and it's all part of what I'm trying to do and share about. I've started offering workshops all about like alignment and finding the things that you feel aligned with and moving closer to those things and trusting your inner knowing. Because I think that it's so important. It literally is the path to being able to build the life that you have dreamed about, like the life that you want. And I think that so many of us get so stuck in what society thinks, what people think about us, what our life should look like. We see everyone on social media and we get stuck in this comparison trap of like, they're doing this, maybe I should be doing this. And to be totally transparent, in my marriage, my ex-husband and I, we were that couple that everyone thought was the definition of love. Everyone thought that we were living this really cool life together, and he throws music festivals. So we're going VIP to Coachella and going to the Grammys every year. And it was this really incredible life. But he was traveling so much for work. And I realized that I needed to have a more present partner. And I realized that while everything like looks so good on the outside, it got to this place where I kind of realized that I was settling for a life that didn't fulfill me in the way that I had dreamed about.
So imagine if you're living this life that on the outside looks so great, it must have been tough to get to the point where you start taking the steps to, as you were saying, get aligned to what really would make you happy.
Yeah, it was really hard because I think by society standards, everything was amazing. We lived in LA, we owned a house together. We both had really successful careers. Like, I think we really looked like that power couple. But yeah, I think I hit an age and I realized that my needs had shifted, and it's okay to make a change. It's okay to make a shift if things don't feel fulfilling. I think oftentimes people don't live as fulfilled of a life as they could because maybe they live the life that their parents wanted them to live, or society really guides us towards getting married, having kids, buying a house, checking all these boxes. And what happens when you check all the boxes and they still don't make you feel that great?
Well, and so if someone's listening to you, Shana, and is thinking, how could I start listening to that inner knowing? How do you go about doing that? Right. So if someone's thinking inner knowing, that sounds, I don't know, like, how do I even get started? Right? What would you say to that person listening?
I think it is starting a practice of connecting with yourself. So finding something you can consistently do to connect with yourself. So whether, like I said, whether it's journaling, whether it's starting something like the Me-est Me Journal and taking yourself on that journey, whether it's taking yourself on a hot girl walk, whatever it is, just literally making time for yourself, for you to spend time with yourself. For me, I couldn't connect with my inner knowing because I was making myself busy. I was at a place where I was so lonely and so distracted that I was always making dinner plans and going to concerts and doing all these things. And I finally started getting into yoga and started quieting my mind a little and starting to realize that this actually doesn't feel as great as it could. So yeah, so I would recommend just making a practice to consistently connect with yourself, whether that's for 5 minutes a day or longer than that. It doesn't take much. I think just doing it consistently is really important.
That makes me think. So I was in Austin maybe about a month ago. It's a Miraval. So if you're in Texas or Arizona, you might be familiar with it. And Miraval is like a wellness hotel. And there's classes, there's yoga, there's a wonderful spa, and there's really a focus on mindfulness. And so as you're talking, you're transporting me back to that place. And it was an amazing time. I went with a friend and I was able to reconnect. And I left thinking, how can I create more of these moments in my everyday life without having to travel to a wellness hotel once a year or whatever it might be? How do I create that in my life in a way that I can with kids, with the family, with the busy life? How do I create those moments? And obviously, I know you're biased with the journal, but I do feel that there's really a lot of power in writing. Do you mind sharing what that process has been like for you, what that's done for you? Because there was a point, I think, where I used to journal all the time. And then I kind of stopped. And when I go back to it, I can see how powerful it is, what it does for me. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on the power of writing and putting things down on paper.
Yeah, I think the power of writing, being able to write things down on paper and take that time to physically write, or even if you're typing, it really allows you to sit and be able to process your thoughts. Our thoughts are always running in the background. We're stuck with social media. There's all these things that are intruding all of our thoughts all the time. So I think it's taking that time to kind of unplug and really tune in and get focused and really process what you're thinking through. I've learned a lot about the benefits of journaling throughout my life. I've been journaling since I can remember. And for me, I am someone who processes a lot through talking to people, but I also process a lot through just free writing. So it's helpful for me to get a journal out, a totally blank journal out, and just free write my thoughts out, just to get them out on paper. And sometimes just doing that makes me feel so much better. It can help relieve anxiety or stress, or just give you a space to kind of process your thoughts.
Yeah, that's what I found too. And I think it's a great reminder for everyone. So it's one of those things that sometimes we pick up and we can put back down. You said getting quiet, connecting with yourself. How do you know when it's your inner knowing and not your inner critic or some other voice? Like, how are you able to tell when it is that voice?
I think it's just about listening. I think it's just about hearing. And I think, okay, for me, one of the ways that I can tell is one of the things that I started paying attention to was the things that raise my energy and drain my energy. So I started paying attention to situations. If I go and meet up with a friend, did I leave feeling built up and alive and excited, or did I leave feeling extremely drained? Same with phone calls, same with getting a text to go out. Before, I used to never say no to going out. I would go out all the time, no matter how tired I was. And now I can really discern if I do want to go out or not. I have the choice to tap into myself and be like, do I want to do this? Am I going to want to do this? So I think it's really about just paying attention to the things that light you up and the things that don't, and moving closer to the things that do, and moving further away from the things that just aren't really aligned with who you are today.
I think that's a beautiful explanation. And if someone's listening thinking, well, there's some things I have to do, like, I don't know, pay bills.
Of course, yeah.
But what you're saying is those other things, the things we have a choice in.
The things you have a choice in. And I wonder if there is a way to make paying bills more fun or more alive, right? Like, what if it's like bookending the bill payment with your favorite song and like creating a dance party out of it? I don't know. I mean, maybe that's kind of a stretch, but we really do have so many choices. And of course, it's life. So not everything is perfect. Not everything feels good. There are still things that you're going to do that are going to drain you. But I think it's just taking note of them and just being more aware of what makes you feel good and just what doesn't.
We have a lot of choice in a lot of things. We're not stuck. We can choose a different way of living, or choosing the things that energizes versus choosing the things that don't. We have that option available to us a lot of time, even when we may not recognize.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that came out of this was realizing that everything you do is a choice and that you are in the driver's seat of your life. That was something that I did not realize. I grew up answering to my mom, my dad, and my stepmom. So I had these like 3 different parties that I had to respond to. And I mean, on top of like my extended family and my friends and teachers, et cetera, everyone that comes into my life. And I got stuck in people pleasing mode where I couldn't discern things for myself because I was just like trying to people please all the time, just trying to make sure that like everyone was happy. I didn't want to have like conflict or yeah. And so I think for a long time, I was really stuck in people pleasing mode. And I think I've gotten really good at discerning when I'm doing something for someone else and when I'm doing something for myself.
Yeah, I'm glad you highlighted that. I think that's a really important distinction. And I see this in coaching conversations as a coach all the time. like trying to figure out what we're doing to please versus what we really want to do. And I'm glad you pointed that out. That's really powerful. I don't know that we're all like, I can point to a time in my life where I was so stuck on people pleasing. I knew I was a people pleaser. I still am. And I didn't even realize that I was making myself so unhappy because of that it was literally causing some health issues. I was so unhappy trying to do the thing I thought I was supposed to do. And I think there's a lot of people living that way. And there's no judgment. We all have been there. We all do it. And I think what you're saying is there is a process to become aware of it.
Yeah, I think that, okay, so I don't know if this is really okay to say or not, but this is something that I really learned along the way that I think a lot of people are kind of sleeping through life. And I think once you tap into mindfulness or connecting with yourself, or you find that thing that really can help support you, you wake up. And I think that there's a lot of people who have that wake up moment when they're like, I've been doing this job for 10 years and I'm not growing anymore. I'm not feeling challenged. Like, I don't want to work here anymore. This environment is toxic. Or they realize that they maybe don't like the relationship they're in anymore, or they maybe want to move to a new city. And I think that it's that moment of being able to like take action for yourself.
Yeah, I hear you. A lot of the time we can just kind of be going through the motions without really being intentional or taking time to step back and look, is this what I really want?
Totally. I think that you hit the nail on the head. It's asking, is this what I really want? That's even a question I feel like I should be asking myself. What I really want.
One of the prompts I have with coaching clients is when I was trying to get over my need to just please. So let's say a friend invited me to a dinner or I got invited to an event. I would ask myself, do I really, really want to go? The really, really piece was the part that, no, I actually don't want to go to that event. I'm tired. Or do I really, really, whatever it might be? And the really, really is kind of really tapping into, no, well, I kind of, there might be a part of us that says, I mean, I kind of want to go. I mean, it'd be kind of fun. But the really, really, no, I don't. I actually don't want to do that.
That is so funny you say that, because it really reminds me of this question or the statement that I think about often, which is it an F yes or a no? And if this doesn't feel like an ultimate F yes, then I have to be like, it's a no. And I will use this when I am literally trying on jeans in the fitting room and be like, is this an F yes? And if it is, I'm like, okay, these are my jeans. But if there's like any indication that it's not an absolute yes, then it's a no. And that's it.
Oh, I love that. I love that. That's almost a form of practicing listening to your inner knowing with
100%.
something as simple as jeans. Because if we don't listen to that, like, well, I mean, I kind of like them. I guess I'll buy them. It's like we're already setting the bar lower.
Yeah. Like we are meant for so much more.
Amazing jeans.
Yeah. We are meant for amazing jeans that make our butt look good, our legs look good, and our body feel great. 100%. And through all of this, I learned that you really can build a life that you love. I decided to move from Los Angeles to Austin, Texas. I always felt called to move to Austin. I felt really attracted to the entrepreneurial community here. And I moved here with the most incredible partner that I met in LA. She is such an amazing person. She is such a present partner. I feel so grateful every day that I get to be with her. And we are on this adventure together. And now I literally get to build my business alongside supporting other entrepreneurs building their businesses. Like I could not have thought up a more aligned life for myself. It is wild.
See, I wish everyone could see the joy. And for those that are watching on video, you can see it. For those listening, Shana is lit up. Her eyes are shining. There's a huge smile on her face. What you're feeling, what you just expressed is what I wish for everyone who's listening.
That is why I am doing this work, because I believe that everyone can feel as good as I feel. I believe that by connecting with yourself and trusting your inner knowing, you can start gravitating to the things that just make you feel good and move away from the things that don't, because why even bother? You know,
It's really that simple.
it is. But we all make it so complicated somehow.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure there's someone listening. Well, what about this? There could be a million reasons.
Of course, of course. I mean, you can interpret this however you want to, but I think that there are opportunities for, if you can't make a big change, like moving across the country or quitting your job, I think it's taking those small steps to get closer to where you want your life to go. This change didn't happen for me overnight. It took a long time to get to this place. And there were a lot of years that I wasn't happy.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Because I think it's normal to feel it, like someone listening might say, well, Shana had the option to move or was able to do it. And it's really about, from my perspective, and let me know if you agree, is the small steps. If you're in the fitting room and you don't really love the jeans, don't buy the jeans.
100%. It is those small steps. Even it literally comes down to me picking out socks in the morning sometimes. That is how I test my intuition. I'm like, would I rather wear this pair today or this pair? And I tune in. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to feel better in this pair. It can be so small to start like building those steps to connecting with yourself.
Almost like building a muscle.
Yes, exactly. That is 100% it.
Yeah. So it doesn't mean listening to our inner knowing doesn't mean we're going to quit our jobs and go live across the country necessarily, right? It meant that for you. And it took time.
Yes.
And it wasn't an overnight thing.
Oh my gosh, no way. It took a while to get to that place. I mean, I'm born and raised in LA and I lived there for my entire life. And I never saw myself moving out of Los Angeles, but an opportunity presented itself and we were in the pandemic and I was like, you know what? I want to take this leap. I don't know what's on the other side, but I feel called to go find out.
And so if someone's listening right now and is thinking, I want to start listening to that inner knowing, there's something missing, or it may not be career related. It may be relationship. It might be environment, the city they're living in, or whatever it is. What do you want to tell them?
Next time someone sends you a text message and invites you to a dinner or invites you to an event, you check in and you say, do I really want to go? Is it going to make me feel alive? Is it going to make me feel good? Is it going to fill me up? Or is it going to drain me? That is the first step.
And we can all do that.
I think we can all do that. I think, if you get a text invite, it can even be as small as if someone's calling you on the phone.
Literally, we don't have to pick up.
You don't have to pick up the phone. I was someone who picked up every single phone call because I made myself so available to everyone. It's that people pleaser in me. But you can literally be like, do I have the bandwidth to talk to this person right now? Do I have the energy to talk to this person right now? Do I want to talk to this person right now? And it's okay if you don't. You can call them back. That is the beauty of it.
I love that you shared that because my husband's always reminded me of that. So sometimes I'll get a call and I look at it and I think, oh, but I'm working on this one thing. And he'll say, you don't have to pick up. You know that, right? You can call them back. And it's just a great reminder that we do have that choice. We can call back when it works best for us. And that's okay.
Yeah, especially if you're in the middle of something. But I have done that so many times. I'll be out checking out at the grocery store and someone calls me and I'm like, oh, I should pick it up now. It's like, no, that is not the time to pick up the phone call, Shana. I think I've gotten really good at discerning that now. And I'm like, call them back in 4 minutes when you're done checking out.
Thank you so much, Shana. Where can people learn more about you? Where can people find your journal?
They can find the journal at me-est-me.com. That's MEESTME.com. You can also follow me on Instagram at Shana Rehwald, my first and last name. And then Me-est Me's Instagram is at me.est.me.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you so much for having me.